Hey guys, I'm Gio, and this story's location was suggested by two listeners, Eric Castaneda, 8069, and Luco, U6G. Thank you both. It was fun researching Canada. I apologize in advance for any pronunciation mistakes. Let's begin. Chapter 1. I stepped into the school, out of the Quebec winter air, brushing the snow off my hair. Ashcott Private Academy, a 7 through 12 finishing institution, eyeing all the parents and teachers. 13 years ago, if anyone had told me I'd be the parent walking into this disaster, I would have called them a liar. Every man wore a suit, every woman dressed in business attire. The students wore uniforms, white shirts, navy slacks, no shorts. A sign declared the school rules. I'd had fewer back in the army. I tightened my gut, posted a stoic smile, and endured parent-teacher conferences. A firing squad would have been easier. I walked down the hallway. Were kids getting shorter, or was I really that much taller than most people? A scrawny student, looked 12 maybe, couldn't get his locker open. Jammed or pranked. The effect was the same. Stuck. "Allow me, kid," I said, eyeing the locker. They had the same ones when I went to school. If you hit it just right. I found a spot about 3 inches above the lock and smacked it hard. It popped open. "The mechanism's getting old," I said. "Doesn't shift the way it's supposed to. Apply enough force, and it opens." The kid looked up at me, eyes wide. "Can you point the way to the gym?" I asked. He pointed down the hall. "Thanks," I said, trying not to growl. Tables lined the edges of the gym. A teacher sat at each table with lines of parents leading to them. A woman walked by, her overtly floral perfume strong enough to break the Geneva Conventions about gas warfare. She eyed me, her eyes narrowing as she saw my dark blue work shirt and jeans. I probably smelled like sweat, too. Considering my day, it might be worse. Her little smirk suggested she thought herself better than me. "I guess your parents couldn't make it, and you're here for your little brother or sister?" "I'm here for my son, actually. Connor Adebayo. I'm his father, Javier Adeboro." She stood a little taller. Her mouth twerked, but did not smile. "No offense," she said, "but you look closer to 20, not 30. Some of the well-dressed parents noticed us and stepped slightly away. It was time to take control of the conversation. "I was 16 when Connor was born. If you'll point the way, Mrs. Morgan asked to speak with me." "I bet she did." "And that means?" "I've spoken with Connor's grandmother several times. I assume she's your mother?" She flashed a plastic smile that would have chilled a bag of ice. "Single father, deadbeat mother. Connor is an only child. You dropped out of high school to raise your son. Did you ever get your CAEC? I suppose since you're lacking in skills, you only work minimum wage jobs to support your son and put food on the table. Connor said you were a plumber. It explains a lot, really." "I'm from the States," I replied. "And yes, I earned my GED a long time ago." The rest stayed unspoken, that I finished it in my first year of the Army, that I carried textbooks in my rucksack between drills, that I proved myself long before anyone had the right to judge me. But why waste breath on someone who's already decided who I am? "I'm Dr. Allison Randall, Vice Principal. Your son has been to my office 7 times, Mr. Adebayo. Yet this is the first time I've seen you, or even spoken to you." I looked down, unable to meet her gaze. I work 2 jobs, and the only reason I can be here now is I had to take a day off. She gave me a look that said, You're a pitiable father who shouldn't have had kids. She pointed to the corner. Your son is already in line. Thanks, I said, and walked away from her, fast. I caught up to my son, all dressed in a white polo with the Ashcott logo and dark blue pants. He held his longboard, a worn 36-inch masterpiece I made myself. Hey, con man. His eyes said he hated being here. I didn't blame him. I never liked middle school, and I hated high school. Hey, Papa-san. Scared? Connor asked. 13 years old, and he could see right through me. You know I'm terrified of people in suits. What's the word? This the English teacher who has it in for you? Yeah, think Vecna with old lady breath. She's your first period? On A days. Think she's total 6'7", but she doesn't even rate a 6'7". So she's a complete 6'7"? That bad, huh? I hate her. She's too strict, doesn't understand that some of us have families we have to take care of, and she assumes we have private chauffeurs. I almost chuckled. How's your grandma? She take her metformin? Blood sugars are high normal, but below 140. Good thing she didn't come. Why's that? Blood pressure, Connor said, rummaging in his pack for a candy bar. Doc wants her to keep calm, and this place would make her angry. Don't worry, you know which end of the wrench does the most damage. How was work? Bad, messy, and smelly. We had to take the toilet off the sewer line to get to the clog. Want to see what some kid flushed? His eyes lit up. That's so gross, Papa-san. Did you bring it? I pulled the plastic ankylosaurus from my pocket. Don't worry, I soaked it in sanitizer. Do you want to add it to your collection? Later, Connor said, flipping his longboard around. Need you to look at the trucks. I think I dropped a bearing. Rattling? Set it down. Connor placed the longboard on the floor. I stood on it, bouncing a little. Grip is good. Suspension is okay. It's noticeable when I pick up some speed. Do we have any extras? Somebody cleared their throat. Connor and I looked up. Mrs. Morgan stood, eyeing my work shirt and jeans, the way I stood on the skateboard, the way Connor lowered his head. Her eyes narrowed to a disapproving squint. Get off that thing. Connor, I asked you to bring your father, not your older brother. Couldn't he make it? We walked over to her table, setting the longboard at our feet. Good evening, ma'am. I'm Javier Adeboro. I'm Connor's dad. Chapter 2. Connor is not applying himself, Mrs. Morgan said, her voice remaining professionally delicate. I'm not in the mood for games, I said, leaning forward to force her eyes to meet mine. Connor doesn't apply himself because you keep giving him detention and sending him to the office. The detention notices I've read include didn't bring a pen or pencil, his third tardy, his fourth tardy, something I couldn't read for his sixth suspension or detention, and a suspension for his seventh because he didn't bring homework on 2 occasions and refused to come to the board when it was his turn, and he swore at you twice. He's a very bright but very disruptive student. I looked over at my son. You know how I feel about swearing. But she wouldn't listen to me, Connor said, his voice edging into anger. She called me to the whiteboard the day after I was suspended. I'd been gone for 3 days. I had no idea what they were doing. I see, I said. Mrs. Morgan, your response? Mrs. Morgan's mouth smirked a little. I am teaching my students to be responsible citizens. Would your employer tolerate swearing? Tardiness? Unprepared? Connor needs to learn. Connor gave me a cross between a smile and a grimace, as if to say, Sorry, Dad. In the real world, Mrs. Morgan, we text if we're going to be late, not suspended. That's stupid, I growled. Unprepared? Half the time when I'm at my job, I have to run to the store to get the right gaskets, or pick up the parts that didn't get delivered. Swearing? Step into the lunchroom for 5 minutes, or watch TV. Hell, my boss has taught me a few. As to when Connor was called to the board, it looks to me like you wanted to humiliate the kid you didn't like." I sat back. Mrs. Morgan raised her hand, the signal that she needed help. Good. I like tag team wrestling. Dr. Rendell angled her way over. As she arrived, I spoke before she could open her mouth. "You will get my son out of this woman's class right now. For the money I spend on tuition, I want my son to have a teacher with a little compassion and who knows how to teach." Mrs. Morgan went scarlet. "I'm sorry," Dr. Reynolds said, her voice calm and measured. "Our academic schedule is built around fixed instructional blocks, and Connor's cohort is assigned to Mrs. Morgan for English. At this time, there is no flexibility within the master schedule to reassign him to a different instructor without disrupting the integrity of the block structure." "Institutional cruelty masquerading as bureaucratic gaslighting," I said, smiling as my voice got louder. "That is the stupidest argument I've ever heard." "I'm not afraid of making a scene. And my son knows it. You will change my son's schedule right now, or I'm contacting my lawyer and suing you and Mrs. Morgan for harassment and breach of contract." Conman snickered. Chapter 3. For emphasis, I pulled out my phone and dialed. My sister, Lexa, was the smart one of the family, as well as a legal assistant. She's got the brains and the patience. I got the hands and the indestructible head of a bull. I put together every IKEA thing she owns, and she helps me with taxes. "Lexa, I'm here at Connor's school," I started. "I told you they'd refuse," she said. "Website says Miss Shorn actually teaches compassion, not just grammar drills. Lots of positive comments. Connor will actually like her." I looked at Dr. Randall and said, "I want Connor in Miss Shorn's class starting tomorrow. Make it happen." "I'm sorry," Dr. Rendell said, her smile reappearing. "That's not how we do things here." I sighed and looked at Connor. "Who's in charge of this place?" Connor smiled. Dr. Martin is the principal, but Mr. Eiden handles schedules. His first name is Ezra." "Counselor? Social worker?" Connor shrugged. "Excuse me," Dr. Rendell asked. Her hand suddenly rested on her hip. "We encourage our students to be independent. We discourage helicopter parents." I stood up, making sure I invaded Dr. Rendell's personal space. "You seem like a smart woman, so don't play dumb. Trying to fix a 3/4-inch bolt with a 1 3/4-inch socket isn't just wrong. It's reckless. You strip the threads, round the edges, and end up making a mess that someone else has to clean up. Usually me. That's what you're doing to my kid." She stepped away, her smile faltering. I smiled. "Allison, your titles don't impress me, and your words don't fix anything. They only make you look out of touch with reality. Go find someone who can actually make a decision, someone who knows the difference between policy and compassion. I'll wait right here." She didn't move. I didn't blink. I went back to my old army days. I didn't need to raise my voice. I didn't need to. Authority isn't volume. It's knowing you're right. "You're dismissed, ma'am." Chapter 4. I didn't move from Mrs. Morgan's table no matter the stares I received. A woman in her mid-20s approached. Dark skin, warm smile, laughing eyes. "Javi and Connor Adeboro?" "We are," I said. "You are?" "Tani Shorn. I teach English to the 8th graders. No offense, but I think everyone heard your conversation with Dr. Rendell. I understand you requested me to be Connor's teacher?" "That is correct." "Even though he's only in 7th? "We're not satisfied with his current placement." She nodded. "I need an excuse to take a 5-minute break to the little girl's room. I'd be delighted to show you to Ezra's office, and we can talk logistics on the way. Ezra's finishing some IEPs tonight, and heaven knows he would love the distraction." I enjoyed talking with Tawny. It's always a pleasure to chat with someone who knows what they are doing. Connor seemed to like her too. She led us behind the main offices, down a side corridor to a row of smaller offices. Only one was lit. A heavy door with a large window had a metal sign below. It read, Ezra Ideen, Student Services Coordinator. In the center of the window hung a small poster. Fee schedule. Simple problem, 1 Scooby snack. Complex problems, 2 Scooby snacks. Impossible problems, dinner and dancing. Ezra must have heard us because he glanced over his shoulder. Though blocked by the glass, our eyes met. A smile embraced his face. Chapter 5. Don't worry, Connor. Not all of us are as intense as Dr. Rendell, Tawny said, and opened the door. Ezra, hair the color of root beer, eyes the color of bread, a smile that grabbed my libido and wouldn't let go. The man stood, wearing gray ankle socks, his loafers kicked off under his desk. An inch or so taller than me, he wore a wrinkled, long-sleeve white shirt with the Ashcott Private Academy logo above the pocket, and a Marvin the Martian tie. His sleeves were rolled up. Next to the computer on his desk was a plant with a small pride flag sticking out. I nodded at it. Nice plant. Story there? His eyes narrowed. His eyebrows rose, and then he nodded. Swiss cheese philodendron. It's a reminder that life grows in unexpected and wild ways, but it always grows if given a chance. I'm Ezra Ideen. Once again, our eyes met, locked onto each other with laser precision, and something clicked deep in my gut. Javier Adeboro, and this is my son Connor. I want him out of Morgan's class and in Tawny's as fast as possible. Dr. Rendell won't like that, Ezra said, mouth opening slightly. It ruins her perfect order. Sounds impossible, I said, not believing what was about to come out of my mouth. I believe the price is dinner and dancing? Dad, you're embarrassing me, Connor elbowed me, his eyes rolling. Ezra eyed my work uniform, eyes narrowing on the company patch. Adeboro Plumbing? Took over from my dad, I said. Ezra sat back down, faced his computer, and cracked his knuckles. Dinner and dancing, huh? I'd better get to work then. 30 minutes later, Ezra sat back. It's set, and our principal, Dr. Martin, has approved. Connor will have English with Tawny. He'll sit in with the 8th graders studying the 7th grade curriculum, then return to his regular cohort for the rest of his classes. Thanks, I said. Cohort? A group of students who have the same teachers during the day. Think Japanese schools, except the students move, and there is more flexibility in scheduling. Singleton classes cause headaches. Singleton? Connor asked. Classes that are only offered once each A-B rotation. For example, orchestra on B days, 3rd period, team athletics, A-day, 4th period, or senior choir, B days, 1st period. Some of those students don't fit into the cohort model, and it's even worse if you're on the college track. Ezra tapped a couple of buttons, sending the copy of the new schedule to the printer. As we stood, I offered my hand. I'm serious about dinner. I owe you. How about Friday? I'm buying. Chapter 7. Friday, I picked up Ezra from the academy. He waited in the office until I walked in, and nodded, a tender smile on his face. You clean up pretty nice, he said, eyeing my black slacks, my silk burgundy button-down, and my new haircut. Had to look the part, I replied, nodding at his Elmer Fudd tie. Where's Connor? I made a deal with him back when he was in 3rd grade. Oh? The nights I have a date, he gets to have a friend or two over. He invited his best friend over, and they're having a Call of Duty gaming fest. So this is a date, Ezra replied, his tone growing dangerously flirty. I gave him a serious look. I'm paying for services rendered. Dr. Rendell looked out her office door. I nodded to her, politely. Once we were out of earshot, Ezra took my hand and said, "Something you should know. Dr. Rendell complained to Dr. Morton and the board that I went behind her back to get your son's schedule changed. According to her, it undermined her authority with the new programs she's implementing." Mrs. Morgan backed her up. "She's obsessing over one kid's schedule? What's the big deal?" Ezra shook his head. "It doesn't mean anything to you or me, but she's trying to make a name for herself with the ministry." "Will you get in trouble?" "Haven't heard anything yet." We took his car, an older white Tesla. Mine is a plumber's truck that smells like stale bubblegum air fresheners and has so many wrappers and old parts in the front seat that it barely has room for me, let alone Connor. We listened to Shadowverse by the midnight as we drove. "In case it's not obvious," I said, "thanks for getting my son out of Morgan's class. That woman can't teach. He's much happier in Tawny Shorn's class." "Even though he doesn't know anybody?" We stopped at a Texas roadhouse and ordered a loaded cactus blossom to share, a roadkill for Ezra, and a Southwest smothered hot dog for me. "That's not on the menu," Ezra said. I shrugged. I fixed a nasty clog in their kitchens. They owe me. We spoke and chatted as we ate before leaving with a dozen of the rolls for later. Chapter 8. Dancing came next. We drove to the Northern Lights, a nightclub near the college. It was early enough that the bouncer let us in. Dark neon lights shifted color. The dance floor changed patterns with the beat. A gigantic monitor made of 9 screens showcased dancers in real time. Synthwave and techno, flashing lights, both gay couples and straight couples. We danced in a flurry of chaos and testosterone. During a lull, we sipped espresso martinis. A song with a wild beat pulled us back to the floor. "Hey, aren't you Mr. Iden from the Academy?" We looked over. A girl stood next to us, eyes wide, hair frizzy, pausing to talk. "Melanie?" Ezra yelled. "You graduated years ago." She giggled. "I didn't think teachers had a life, let alone danced. This your boyfriend?" "Javi," I yelled. "First date." She giggled again and disappeared into the crowd. The music shifted, slow now, a Billie Eilish song, Ocean Eyes. My hands held his waist. His held mine. Our faces, only inches apart. "Thanks for helping Connor. If they give you trouble, you let me know." "What can you do?" "I protect my friends." I stopped swaying, met his eyes, and made sure he knew I was serious, especially those I have feelings towards. A half smile lingered on Ezra's lips. His eyebrows rose a fraction. "You're bearing military?" "Back in America, I was Army, Airborne Ranger, part of the 75th Ranger Regiment, 2nd Battalion, stationed at Joint Base Lewis McChord in Washington. Tore my knee in a bad landing, got a medical discharge, and earned a Purple Heart." "Purple Heart? Aren't those only given out to soldiers wounded in enemy fire?" "I'm not allowed to talk about the details. Let's change subjects." I didn't blink. I didn't breathe. Some stories stay sealed for a reason. Ezra glanced away. His eyes flicked toward the window, then back to me. He was calculating something. Risk? Trust? Maybe both? "What did you do with Connor when you were in the Army?" "He stayed with my parents, but I Zoom called him almost every night when I could." "I take it you've done a bit of traveling?" "Middle East and Northern Africa, mostly." "Now you're a plumber?" I smiled. Dad was. I took over the business when I got back. His goal now is to visit every province. Him and Mom bought an RV and plan to start touring Canada next spring. No offense meant, but how do you afford Ashcott on a plumber's salary? Military pay good? I leaned forward and whispered, I'll have to tell you, privately, after I check your security clearance. He placed a hand on my chest. Not tonight. Not on a first date. I stepped fractionally away. You say when. For now, we dance. Drink a little. My phone buzzed. A text from Connor. Papa-san, sending the SOS. Real green tilt machine is back on COD in full anger mode. Trouble? Ezra asked. Nothing I can't handle. You ever play Call of Duty? Chapter 9. The four of us sat in my living room, headsets on, staring at the flat screens on the wall. My target, the bully of the game, real green tilt machine. He logged on to anything he could find and trashed everyone he met. Ezra was good. Connor was good. I was better, especially at stealth. Ezra sat next to me, controller in hand, a novice at this game, but not at gaming. While Connor and me and his friend focused on honing our PlayStation skills, Ezra preferred the Xbox and the Halo series. Different controllers, similar skill sets. Once Ezra got used to the buttons, we jumped and shot, having as much fun as dancing. For a couple of hours, I forgot that he was the school counselor. So did Connor. So did the rule about swearing. We played for hours. Connor and his friend fell asleep on the couch, but Ezra and I kept playing. It was 4 a.m. when he said he had to go. He asked if I wanted to ride back to my truck. I hesitated, but I went anyway. The snow hadn't started yet, but the air tasted like it would. We drove for a while, then stopped at a coffee shop overlooking the St. Lawrence River. I leaned against the iron balcony rail, boots damp from the slush, eyes tracing the curve of the St. Lawrence River below. Ezra stepped out behind me, 2 mugs of maple-infused coffee in hand. You ever been here before? Ezra asked. Once. Deployment leave. My parents moved here about 10 years ago. I didn't see much, just the inside of a hotel and a cathedral I couldn't name. Ezra handed me a mug. Then we'll name it ourselves. Call it the Cathedral of Second Chances. I smiled. The kind that didn't reach my lips, but warmed the space between them. You always do that? What? Make things sacred? Ezra shrugged. Only when they deserve it. The wind picked up, brushing snow flurries past our coats. Below, the cobblestones glistened. Above, the Chateau Frontenac stood like a sentinel of stories waiting to be told. We finished our coffees, watching the dawn crest the eastern clouds, blessing the edges with brilliant silver. We held hands on the way back, kissed lightly, and when we reached my truck, we parted, wishing we hadn't. At least, I wanted him to stay. Inside, the house was warm with memory, a wall of family pictures, shelves lined with keepsakes. I paused at a plaque, eyes drawn to the metal beneath it. The Purple Heart. For a moment, I remembered that day, the day that changed everything, the jump, the enemy fire. I had just barely landed when the bullet ripped through my knee. I don't remember anything after that. Chapter 10. Monday morning, I dropped Connor off to school, glancing at Ezra's car in the parking lot. He had texted yesterday, saying he had had a good time. It was the start of a 2-hour text flirt. Dr. Rendell exited her car, pencil-thin skirt in black, white blouse, black professional blazer. She carried a briefcase in one hand, her phone in the other. When she saw me and my truck, she froze. Her look would thaw a glacier. The hatred that flashed through her eyes reminded me of the enemy combatant that tried to kill me in the orchard outside Fallujah. I nodded and tipped my baseball cap. Best to be neighborly. Makes them wonder. First job took all morning. Under the counter line to an ice maker had sprung a leak. Knife had fallen from the drawer and nicked it good. Had to pull out the old and shove in the new. In the process, I emptied every drawer and cupboard in the way. Owner said they didn't mind. Needed to declutter anyway. Ice maker survived the process. Lunchtime. Ezra texted, "You doing anything Friday? Can get tickets to the Ramparts game at the Videotron. Bring Connor." I smiled and texted Connor to let him know. His response, "HYP, yes. Hell yeah, Papa-san." Chapter 11. It was that afternoon, while I was installing a 100-gallon water heater at the Martin house. Yes, that Martin, the principal. Dad had installed the original 9 years ago, when Ezra's second text came through. "Need to see you tonight. The Rendell Grendel is on the warpath." I wiped copper shavings from my palms and texted back, "Won't be done until 7. Late dinner?" His reply came fast. "Les trois garçons, at 8. I read it aloud, practicing the French. Les trois garçons. It tasted like a promise. I sent back a hamburger emoji and an HY. Hell yeah. On break, I pulled up their menu. Fresh cut poutine. I'll have to bring home extra for Connor. The booth was tucked in the back, dimly lit, the kind of place where secrets settled like steam off a plate. Ezra was already there, jacket draped like a shield, fingers wrapped around a sweating glass of ginger ale. I slid in across from him. The vinyl creaked under me, loud in the hush. "You order yet?" He shook his head. "Wanted to wait. Thought you might want to try the poutine." I raised an eyebrow. "You think I don't know what poutine is?" He grinned, but it didn't reach his eyes. "I think you know what it means." We ordered 2 burgers, mine with extra pickles, his with goat cheese and caramelized onions, and a plate of poutine to share. The fries arrived first, steaming under a blanket of gravy and cheese curds that squeaked like protest. We didn't talk about Randall. Not yet. We let the food do the talking. The silence between us wasn't empty. It was loaded. Ezra kept glancing at me. Would it be too forward to move next to him? I was never one for hesitating. I shifted seats until I sat next to him, the vinyl covering cool. I picked up a gravy-covered French fry and fed it to him. He closed his eyes, savoring the heat. His shoulders didn't relax. This was serious. "Is Rendell gunning for you, or Tawny?" I let my voice harden. Intel was needed, not emotion. Not yet. His hesitation chilled my soul. Dr. Rendell was hired last year. She came with all kinds of ideas, and the school service centers liked her. Dr. Martin went along because the ideas sounded good. The slight tremor in his voice told me the answer before I asked the question. "They don't sound good anymore?" Ezra paused, sipping his ginger ale. "She's not very diplomatic when she doesn't get her way." "Meaning?" I took his hand, fingers chill, heartbeat rapid. "Every student has a place and must be in it." "You didn't say no earlier. What has she done?" "She's placed an official record of insubordination on my record for transferring Connor." "That's petty. Did Tawny receive one too?" "I suspect," Ezra replied. "Tawny went home early today, crying. I wasn't able to talk to her." "I thought only the principal could do that, and doesn't it take a few days or a week and require a formal review?" "Normally. Maybe she has friends at the school services center. I don't know. She has to make her programs work. She sees herself on the fast track to the Ministry of Education. I sipped my beer, thinking. You said every student has a place. What did you mean? 7th graders must be with 7th graders. Ezra met my eyes. She's expelling Connor because he's not fitting in the mold, and rumor is she wants to get back at you for humiliating her. Explain. I have the paperwork on my desk for Connor's expulsion from Ashcott Academy. Rendell signed and dated it, effective tomorrow. I had to type it into the computer. I'm sorry. Chapter 12. I should have been surprised, but little did surprise me anymore. Connor was safe at home, for now, but Rendell had crossed a line, a serious mistake. She'd learned soon enough what that meant. I'd learned to read people, trusted my instincts when it counted. Ezra held his fork too tight, shoulders hunched, breathing shallow and quick. Fear. He flinched when I placed my hand on his, then relaxed. Only a fraction. I could work with that. You and Tawny don't need to worry, I whispered. I protect my friends. How? Like this, I said, leaning in. I nuzzled his neck, tenderly. He inhaled, sharp, startled. I kissed the angle of his jaw, feather light, let my breath linger on his lips. Ezra's lips parted. He licked them, slow, eyes closing. I kissed his lower lip, sucking gently, then included both lips in a soft exchange. The tension flowed out of him. His body shivered. My tongue teased his and discovered the tongue ring. The man is full of surprises. I let my tongue play with the ring on his tongue, casual, flirtatious, full of promise. He inhaled, deep. His hand found my side. That's as far as I'll go, I whispered, patting the top button of his shirt, until you give the word. Chapter 13. As Ezra and I parted, my mind began to strategize. One focal enemy, Dr. Allison Rendell. Possible enemy, Mrs. Morgan. 3 victims, Ezra, Tawny, and my son. Time to go nuclear and obliterate the pedestal Rendell stood on. Timing was the issue. I called Lexa, my sister. She's the nice person in the family. So am I, kind of, until you threaten my friends, or my son. Then I'm a bipolar bear with anger issues. I told Lexa what was going on. She laughed. We came up with a plan. She made some calls. I made some calls. It was 2 a.m. when we were done. I called Ezra. He answered on the 3rd ring, voice bleary. Everything all right? You and Tawny will need to be at the school by 7. I called in a favor. What did you do? He said, suddenly awake. Something legal. Don't be late. Oh, and Ezra? Yeah? I let myself smile. I like the way you kiss. I like the tongue ring. Can't wait until Friday. Chapter 14. The news van arrived at 5 to 7. We were ready. I was dressed to impress. The old dress uniform still fit, medals aligned, the purple heart gleaming like a warning flare. Connor stood beside me, dressed to the hilt. I'd ironed his clothes myself, right before he put them on. He looked taller somehow, steadier. As Dr. Rendell stepped out of her car, heels clicking, blazers sharp, we went live. I'm here with Javier Adeboro and his father, American war hero, Sergeant Javier Adeboro of the 75th Ranger Regiment, commonly known as the Army Rangers, the reporter said, mic in hand. Connor, what do you think of your dad? Connor didn't hesitate. He nearly died protecting us. I'm really proud of him." The reporter turned. "Dr. Martin, as principal of the academy, did you know you had the son of a decorated military veteran attending your school?" Dr. Martin blinked. "Not until now. Sergeant Adeboro has never made a point of it." I stepped forward, voice calm, because I didn't think I had to. I thought my son's worth would be measured by his work, not his wardrobe, by his heart, not his homeroom. I'm holding in my hand a paper signed by Dr. Allison Rendell, Vice Principal of Ashcott Academy, stating that as of today, Connor is expelled. Reason? Tardies. The camera panned to Dr. Rendell. Her smile was frozen, her eyes calculating. The reporter didn't miss a beat. "Dr. Rendell, would you care to comment on the expulsion of a high honor student for 4 tardies? I understand that there are cases with students with at least a dozen tardies that were never expelled. Why make an example of Connor and not them?" This is a private matter," she said, voice clipped. "We follow policy." "I see. Therefore, every student with 4 or more tardies can expect to be expelled this week? That works out to about 60% of the student body. Since this is a private school, how will that affect funding, staff employment, donations? Or is this a personal vendetta against me and my son?" I said. "I'm a plumber and a veteran, not a millionaire like some of the other clientele she prefers. I wanted my son to have the best, but instead we found an institution that expels students for not having the right pedigree." Dr. Rendell had gone gray. The silence that followed was louder than any shout. Ezra and Tawny stood behind us, both in quiet solidarity. Tawny's eyes were red, but her chin was high. Ezra's hand brushed mine. Just once. Just enough. The story aired by noon. By 2, it had gone viral. Veterans groups reposted it. Education advocates weighed in. A local MP called for an inquiry. The School Service Center issued a statement about ongoing review. Dr. Rendell went silent. Mrs. Morgan took a leave of absence. Ezra forwarded me a screenshot of the headline. "Son of American war hero expelled from prestigious academy." Subhead, "Connor Adeboro, 13, honor student with a full scholarship and no disciplinary record, expelled after 4 tardies. School cites nonconformity." Ezra's text followed. "You didn't humiliate her, you exposed her. Connor is safe. The reprimands have been removed from Tawny's and my records. Rendell has been called to the ministry to answer questions." I looked at the Purple Heart on my shelf. It wasn't supposed to be a weapon, but maybe it was the only one that could cut through the walls of policy and pride. Chapter 15. We were at the Remparts game at the Videotron Center. The Remparts were the local hockey team, and tonight they played the Halifax Mooseheads. Connor sat to my left, Ezra to my right. Ezra and I held hands. Connor shouted, voice rising with the crowd. One of the players skated fast, hockey stick guiding the puck, ice spraying as his skates bit deep. He shot the puck. The puck slid into the back of the net. Connor screamed. We cheered. The cold air bit at my cheeks. The roar of the crowd shook the rafters. And for once, every sound was electric joy. Tonight, with my son and the man I was beginning to love, it felt like home. I placed my arm around Ezra and whispered, "Thank you." Epilogue. Dr. Allison Rendell got her promotion. She and her ideas were quietly transferred to a ministry office, where she sits all day overseeing curriculum development. She never has to step foot into a school ever again, and never interacts with students. Once Mrs. Morgan realized that she had become the villain of the school, she mellowed. A little bit. Dr. Martin asked Tawny to head the English department. She declined, preferring to spend her time helping students. A year and a few months later, in June, I wore my dress whites, Ezra a white suit. Connor wore white as well. He was my best man. Ezra's brother was his. Our wedding made the news. People love a wedding. They love a happy ending. And they always love cake. Ours were layers of lemon with cream cheese frosting, edible pearls, and creamy white orchids. Ezra booped my nose with frosting before kissing it off. Connor took pictures, laughing. We hugged, the three of us, frosting still sweet on my nose, and in that moment, I found home. The end. Thank you for joining me. I appreciate it. For more stories, stop by my other channel, Loud and Proud L3Q. It's been real, and it's been fun. I love you all. Peace, my friends. I'm Gio, and until next time.